Hey, this is Steve Zeltzer with KPFA WorkWeek Radio, and an important new film has come out, actually filmed in the Bay Area, called The Cleaners, and I'm here with the filmmakers. Hey, I'm speaking with...
My name is Hans Bloch.
My name is Moritz Riesewieck, and the two of us, we are the directors of the documentary feature The Cleaners.
So talk about this idea of The Cleaners, how you came to decide that you want to do a film about The Cleaners and what The Cleaners are.
Actually, the starting point of the film was 5 years ago when we heard about a cruel post on Facebook. There was a child abuse video which went online on Facebook and that stayed there for a while, and it was shared 60,000 times and 4,000 times, and it showed an old man, a video of an old man raped a younger girl. And we were wondered, how is that possible that something like this get on Facebook, and why don't we see such content more often? And we started researching, is there someone who's filtering the web? Is there someone who's taking care on the content, And we found out because of a media scientist, Sarah T. Roberts. She's also based in LA. And she told us that there are humans behind those decisions and that there are thousands of content moderators around the world, and we didn't know anything about them. And most of the work is being transferred to the developing countries in order to keep the wages low. And then we started researching. We tried to get in contact with these guys.
And what did you find out about the workers who were hired at very low wages to supposedly clean up the internet?
Mm. What shocked us was how low the qualification for this work is. They only get a 3 to 5 days training to do this really challenging and at the same time disturbing job. They often don't know what they apply for in the moment they are hired, and only in the training they get a short glimpse of what this work might mean to them, because it's so disturbing. They get to see all the stuff we don't want to face with. We're talking about child pornography, we're talking about terrorist videos, beheadings, all kinds of cruelties, and really shocking pornography. But at the same time, they also have to decide about ambivalent content, political content, you really need to know the context for in order to be able to decide about that. And they have to take these decisions as well in a few seconds. In order to reach the daily score of thousands of pictures, they really need to be quick. And so they don't dare to think too much. One golden rule is don't overthink. That's one of the rules they learn in the first days of their training, they told us. And so in a lot of cases they just apply their gut feelings, and this causes, of course, a lot of problems, and all the mistakes we only get to know sometimes about.
And the psychological costs, I mean, looking at this kind of material for hours and hours can have an effect on you. What does the company say about this, the cost to the workers of doing this kind of job?
Yeah, unfortunately, if you sit in front of a screen and review the worst you can imagine, it has a strong effect on your mental health. And we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorders. It's something like a soldier suffering from, if he comes back from war zones, it's almost the same. And there's no proper psychological support. What we heard is whenever there is something like a psychological support, they have quarterly group meetings with all the staff members, sit in one room, and then the psychologist asks the question, has someone a problem with this kind of job? And everybody looks on the ground because they're afraid to lose their job if they talk about their problems. And Facebook is not doing anything. I mean, we tried to contact them several times during our research, and there was no response at all. And what we heard from some moderators we're still in contact with, that there's no change.
And I mean, Facebook is a very rich company. I mean, some people are concerned that they're censoring material they politically disagree with. They work with the Israeli government and other governments. Did this come up in the film?
Yes, it does. We have Nicole Wong in our film. She developed the first guidelines for YouTube and was the vice president for Google for quite a while. And then after that was the policymaker for Twitter. And she tells us about governmental requests, for example, from the Turkish government requesting for takedowns of, for example, Kurdish content or content criticizing Ataturk, the founder of Turkey, so to say.
And the Palestinian journalists were also censored.
Yes, and she tells us how she is seated in her living room in the middle of the night and screening all these ambivalent videos, and she has to decide how they deal with this request. And David Kay, the UN representative who is trying, and who deals with freedom of expression all the time, he tells us these are backroom deals. These are deals which are not at all transparent. The companies and the governments try to arrange with each other, which can cause, in a lot of cases, that they don't keep their standards they are aiming for in the Western world for countries which might not at all be democratic, but which might be quite relevant for their profits. And so we only get a kind of a glimpse of how far this compromising with all kinds of autocratic takedowns is and leads.
And over a large number of people are on Facebook. Their lives are on Facebook. Their families. Is there a concern in this film about that and how that can be used, good or bad?
I think we love the idea to connect people around the world and to give everyone a voice. But today more than 3 billion people are connected on social media worldwide. And it's not any longer just a tool where you share holiday pictures or family photos. It's a very political tool. Most of the people of the young generation inform themselves on these social media platforms, and we have to ask who's responsible for that, who's deciding what is published on the social media sites and what is not, what we are allowed to say there and what not. It's also a question of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and I think we have to be aware what's going on in our digital public sphere.
And you're right now, Facebook says that they don't need controls; they can control themselves. You don't buy that?
I mean, have you watched the Congress hearings? This was almost real-life satire. It's really a really bad joke how underinformed most of the politicians are about what the actual nature of these social media companies is. And whenever they compare these services with something like a newspaper or a radio station, this is completely misleading. This is a completely new kind of infrastructure. And this infrastructure, which actually should be in the hands of the public, is now shared by just a few major companies who own all the data, who own, and this is maybe even more important, the access of billions of people. Billions of people now don't distinguish that much anymore between the internet itself and Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Just a few gatekeepers, a few walled gardens where everything is happening. This is dangerous.
And what has been the response to the film from people who have seen it?
I mean, we screened the film all around the world, and it is very interesting to have access to all those discussions going on around the world. For example, it's very interesting to talk about freedom of speech, because even Europe and the States, which seem very close to each other, are so different. Whenever we show the film in the States, we have a scene of a right-wing activist who's really have a cruel speech against minorities like the refugees. And whenever we ask the audience if he's able to do that, if he can do that, everybody is saying you should be allowed. Everybody says, yeah, it's covered by the First Amendment. And whenever we show the same scene in Europe, everybody is talking to us, okay, no, there's a border. You're not allowed to say something like this. And this is very interesting, and I think this is what makes the film so interesting nowadays and so timely, that we open a discussion exactly about that topic.
And the rise of fascism, political groups like that, they've used these platforms, social media, to build their movement. You see this growing, or what do you see happening in the future with these networks?
I mean, never before in the history of mankind has it been easier to reach millions of people within just seconds. So what is posted on social media becomes viral so quickly, and can infect billions of people with anger, hatred, and of course they either spread hatred and violence against minorities, against descendants online, or they take to the streets and take up arms. And this is a completely new situation, and we need to find new ways how to deal with it.